normal people.
Is that a question for me?
Any questions for anyone that would like to respond?
I can address that. To make it more transparent and accountable, we have to restructure the whole system. I'm a firm believer in blockchain and smart contracts, and I believe this our almost majority of our political system and politicians in general can be reduced significantly. We're talking about how do we reduce the spending? Well, we stop paying all these politicians to do absolutely nothing because that's what they're doing. The technology is available for us to be 100% absolutely transparent with each other 100% of the time, any time of the day. Our voting system could be as easy as this. Your phone stops working until you vote. You literally get a thing on the screen. It gives you a unilateral, not a partisan agenda. It tells you the facts of what you're voting on. And if you don't make your decision, you can't access your phone. And even if your decision is, I'm not sure, just to make sure that we have documentation of everybody's voice in this country and making sure it's clear and concise and it's factual. You cannot rig a blockchain system. So that would be the way to keep it transparent. And even within my potential run, my goal is to basically remove the position of president within the next 10 years. I think we're going to, we may need a president to represent the country on a federal level, but we're not getting leaders that are serving people. They're serving agendas. And like I was saying before, it's like if we want to get leaders that are going to serve the people, we have to change the corporate structures of how America works. Capitalism is, in its current state, is one of the most dangerous things in the history of humanity. Sorry, Anthony.
No.
If I may, I forget your name, Mr. Departy, but I did want to ask you, how would you respond to citizens who say that, hey, you just made a suggestion that infringes on my ability to choose because you took away my choice by saying that if I don't vote on something because maybe I don't fully understand it, even though you're providing all of the data, but to assume that we all have the same comprehensive levels, that we can do all of these things that we're already, and you say that, hey, I have the ability to turn you off. How do you separate your language of authoritarianism from the language of freedom of speech and just freedom to be able to be a part of this government without feeling as if the people who are bringing these laws, rules, and responsibilities are infringing on you?
Well, I wouldn't say it's an infringement. If you don't want to participate, you just say not sure. It's just making sure that everybody's we're having this thing right now where the president is trying to remove the the mail-in ballots. And here, there's a lot of elderly people here that want their voice and they can't. I live in southern Arizona. To go stand in the sun and wait to do all this polling and all of that, it's an inconvenience. And it's not about forcing people to make the vote. It's making sure everybody has the opportunity to vote and clearly having a record of it that's clear and concise. Not our system right now. We have private contractors running our voting systems. And in capitalism, big money talks. You can do whatever you want. It's kind of like I was saying. The reason the January 6th thing happened is kind of like this. If we're playing Monopoly and I'm cheating and you beat me, I know you cheated too. You know what I'm saying? So this next round of the game, he says, well, it looks like money is how you win this game. And you pay a lot more money and you'll win the game because it's rigged like that. So I think the transparency at this point comes a lot to do with getting rid of everything that's keeping the veil. And if our system is basically operating against us, it's almost a veil for an opposite agenda of serving the people.
Ms. Andy?
I apologize. Anthony, were you about to say something?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh.
Okay. I was like, this is getting me excited. Okay. So, two ways. Rodney, totally echo your sentiments there. But I also hear you in saying that we are moving towards an infrastructure where there can be something more similar to a pure democracy. I'm not saying I support that, but I do believe that over the next, maybe not 10 years, but years, right, there can be some changes in the way that we are doing voting and everything like that. But I will say we can't make the blanket statement that everybody has access to electricity and homes and water and transportation, because I think that's one of the things, those are the people that are getting left behind right now, right? So making a sweeping statement like that, they're the ones that need government the most, right? So I think we all know here that big corporations and money, it's a big problem, right? And we need to figure out a way to take the power away from them. Government is the thing or the entity that should, and it's truly made for the people, right? Like, you can have like these big companies do this philanthropic work and all of these things, but they also serve their needs. Government is the only thing that truly, truly serves the people. And if you're talking about then we move to individual voting, pure democracy, there still can be corruption, and I worked in workforce transformation for many years. Even the way you ask a question can lead the person to an answer that you're looking for. Even the way you distribute the information can lead a person to have a bit of bias on something. So I just think that removing those facets of government alone will not solve it, because there's still different ways, right? You ask for those questions, you put out that information, it can still lead them to it. However, I do believe there are some shifts that may come in the future with the technology that we do have available, where we may not need so many different levels and so many different people in, the seats of power or elected. But, those are my thoughts on that. But I love this topic. I absolutely love it.
So, Anthony, do you want to go or you want me to go?
Well, Randall had asked about accessibility. What would we do as candidates? Was that the original question?
Yeah, it was about how would you make your office more transparent?
Good. I want to point that out because we've looked into that here locally, and I believe it's the same amount averaging. Every U.S. House member gets $1.6 million for their budget, not as a salary, as a budget office amount to run their offices. They take that and they use it to pay their staff and operating costs and for rent for offices. And I'm just thinking about that figure. I bet you could at least have one office and one employee open 24/7 for $1.6 million and have money left over. It could start right there. Staff members on social media. The sole purpose is to answer constituents on social media. You can probably have 1, 2, maybe half a dozen. You have $1.6 million to work with. Our opponent here has 3 offices, and they're only open, I guess, during from like 8 to 1, and it's not every day. So we would want to see something like that here locally. That we would do. As far as voting. Circling back to the issue that we were talking about, voting, having people vote, there is no way in hell that your physical presence is required to vote as a citizen in today's technology in 2025, or as a House member, show up on the floor of Congress to physically be present to vote. We know and we can see with our own eyeballs that military and corporations utilize secure communications every single day, otherwise they wouldn't function. Our government should be able to do the same thing, and especially if it's a military that is using that, our government, which is the military is part of, should have access to those communications as well. And that would increase voter turnout as well. I think the whole topic is to disenfranchise as many voters as possible, so we only have the wealthy elite, which we have now, voting, or wealthy people, or the upper middle class voting, is their game plan. We know that the numbers from our government's own numbers, that the people that sat out the last election that have been so turned off, eligible voters that chose not to vote, are higher than the current winner of the last presidential election. So when they say landslide, no, it wasn't a landslide, just that a lot of eligible voters sat out the election because they're so turned off. I'll end there.
So I will tell you, are you done, Anthony? Sorry. I will tell you that as president, I believe that every American did cast a vote in the last election. because our Constitution says, you know what, you have a right to vote, and you can vote however you want. If you want to go down and check that little box, fine. If you are so aggravated with government that you don't want to go down and check that box, you literally cast your vote of being so disenfranchised with the government that that's how you voted. So if I was president, my number one goal would be how can I reach the disenfranchised to get them back involved? And I think that's a lot to do with building trust with them, having open communication with them, and making sure that they know that when I say something, it's not going to be a lie. So I would go for that. I would continue. They asked me if I would continue town hall meeting and TikTok live if I became president. Absolutely, I will. Because I think it's a way to communicate with everyday working people, and that's what we need to do is communicate with them. So that's why I'm constantly looking at how can I change this to reach more people. And when Ed and I started this, we would have 3 or 4 people. Now we have 15 to 20 people. So we just got to keep sharing that message, sharing our TikToks, meetings, and so forth. We got to get that message out that we are for the people and not for a political party. Because when we go with a political party, we'll be just like everybody else.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hunt. And I don't mean to interrupt the conversation, but it is past 11:50, which means I must bring our segment on governance to close. So does anyone else have anything to say on the topic before we continue?
I forgot to answer the question about transparency and communication. I got so excited about the technology and everything. But I totally agree with Mr. Hunt as well. We need to ride the wave of digital technology in the way that we can connect with it. I also believe that we can't have career politicians because the thing that happens with relatability there is after like a few terms, you are no longer aligning with like the major base of your constituents, right? And your viewpoints have changed. So I think that that's another way that we can make sure that the relatability is there between who's in office and the representative.
Thank you, Ms. Sang. Does anyone else have anything to say on the topic?
Yeah, a little bit is and this is talking about transparency. Before I wanted to clarify, I wasn't saying that in general, like everyone in America has water and electricity. I grew up living in times without electricity. But what I'm saying is that as a nation, we have the infrastructure, as in like the ability to have these things, especially a lot to higher standards than a lot of other places. Like it's there, the infrastructure's there. It's just it's not operating for the people. It's operating for profits. This is what I'm saying. It's not. I understand the poverty situation pretty well. I'm a homeless person for a while. And I think too, with like addressing this politically, I don't believe we have the world's longest amount of time to work this out legislatively. And I mean, there's certain things like, for one, I believe like governors, senators, mayors, the people that are saying they want to be leaders. I kind of stand on this ground of like, okay, well, when you take office, you lose access to your whatever your wealth is. So many wealthy people come in, live in the worst neighborhood that you're representing, and you take the minimum wage of your state. If you want to see real change, you make the leaders live at the level that the very poorest people are living at, so they understand what they're actually fighting for. You make the stake in their life, the investment in their community, not in their bank accounts, not in their shareholders, none of that. You put them right on the ground with people, and so they understand who they're fighting for and what they're fighting for. Because you can't have somebody from a castle on a hill telling the people in the mud how to get out of the mud. And that's kind of, I really think, we're doing some productive things, but legislation, just getting to office takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of money. And that's just to get yourself in a position to influence legislation, which that takes a lot of work and a lot of money. All that work and all that money could be being put into the infrastructure for us to be making a withdrawal from this system by building cooperative networks, cooperative utility, cooperative medical, cooperative housing. We can still keep capitalism. People want to sell clothes and buy shirts and music, and the free market can exist. But the things that we need in America should be cooperatively owned by the Americans, and the leaders should understand what it is like to live in the mud with people. And that's my thing on government.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cooper. Anybody else? I will take that as a no. Our next segment is going to be on income inequality. And my first question is, inflation and the cost of living keeps rising, while wages and salaries for many have stayed the same. What is one policy you prioritize to close that gap in your desired office?
I'll go first. The first policy I would want to enact is this concept. And this concept came from Mr. Global, who is an oil and gas expert. So one of the problems we have that affects a lot is the price of fuel. When the price of fuel goes up, the price goes up because that's all calculated in the price of goods. So the one policy I would like to see enacted is that Congress sets a national standard for the price of refined product. So if the price, let's say, is $3 a gallon. So if the gasoline and heating oil and everything is not $3 a gallon on national average, that's not including taxes. Okay, that's the actual price of the fuel. Everything is good. But let's say if it raises up to 3 1/4, then the government mechanism kicks in and says we're going to cut back on exporting refined fuel to build our reserves back up. So that when our reserves build back up, our prices drops back down. So when it hits back to $3 a gallon, we start exporting refined fuels again. I think that would be one of the best things that can be enacted by Congress to ensure the cost of living is reduced for the American people.
Can I follow?
Yeah, of course.
I think if we want to nip this thing in the bud, one of the easiest things we can do, and because there's always a lot of conversation about minimum wage, and I think minimum wage, the conversation of it, inflation, all these things, is kind of like the carrot on the stick in front of the donkey. We're always chasing this thing to try to get it to this place where it's going to be better, but it's set to never actually get you to the place where you can get that fulfilled. We want to see major change in this country. What we do is we do highest to lowest wage caps. Worker, so you're just, this is an example, and I think that this would be adjusted on how big your company is, how many employees you are. But if you're a major corporation and you do a 20 to 1, meaning your janitor's got to make $50,000 a year before your CEO can make $1 million. And when you set up a wage cap ratio like that, you'll immediately see the poorer people in this country's wages going up. Because if a guy runs his business and wants to make 10 million, and the number, like I said, your numbers would start getting weird. And also a maximum wage. I mean, I believe it's awesome for somebody to work hard, start a business, and become a billionaire and buy yachts. But when you're on your $1 billion yacht with your $100 million dinghy to get to it, let's just make sure everybody has the basics of what they need before we all start buying yachts. And so highest, lowest wage caps is, for one, I think would definitely impact it. But co-opting our industries would have a major impact on everything. It would change. Like, for instance, I'm on a co-opt electric company. Every year I get a check from the electric company. If the electric company did well and made profits, I get a check because I'm a co-owner of that. My rates are good. I have a democratic voice on how my business, how my electric company runs. And this is like, people are like, well, we shut down Walmart. Oh, we need to get rid of these big box stores. And I'm going, no. I mean, if Walmart was a co-op, Walmart would be one of the greatest, most influential corporations in our economy across the board. The problem isn't it's the ownership structure that this country is allowed to operate, and it's really weird. Like you had addressed this before, Ronnie. Is Our government is supposed to protect us from those things, and it was written into our Constitution that this government was supposed to protect us from those things. It's why the founding fathers had established the charter system when they came here, because of the East Indian Trading Company becoming so big and so influential that it basically controlled their monarchy. And then what you see this shift over time, where the Constitution, because it's made with words, and words are what make up the law, and they're open to interpretation, that the Constitution was changed and amended over and over to benefit the wealthy and the corporations. Corporations didn't have rights when this country was founded. They had charters. Charters were voted on. They couldn't even stay in existence unless the people voted on them, that they were useful and benefited the people. Corporations fought against that and now have the same rights as human beings. And they used the 14th Amendment to do so. So if we want to adjust this income equality, it's really at the very root of how this whole system is designed at the moment. And that's why why I keep saying we opt out. The amount of work we're doing just to try to influence it politically, we could be doing this by starting like I've already reached out to Costco, hey, you guys could be the leaders of this movement. Why don't you co-op your industry? Do a stock buyback. Buy back your stock. Re-release it to your members and your workers. You'll become one of the most powerful co-ops in the country. Same thing, I'm reaching out to Kmart. Kmart's going out of business. Sears, all of that. They still run online. These could be industries that it's as simple as this. You're going to go, you buy your groceries. Are you going to buy it from the store that's shipping money out of your local economy to a shareholders? Or are you going to buy it from the store that you own collectively with your community? And this goes across the board, even big tech. We shouldn't be having these conversations on companies that are owned. We're sitting here making other millionaires money while we do this, when we could be on our own cooperatively owned technological networks. But you know what I mean? There's going to be thousands of us trying to change this system politically. There's going to be thousands of us spending thousands of dollars trying to change this system politically, when really it's we almost have more control through our corporations. And I've said this before on here. The corporations have more power over our government than the American people do. So at this point, the people need to own the corporation. If a country that's by the people for the people is now by the corporation for the corporation, if the people want the country back, they've got to own the means of the production. It's really, that's what I'm saying. Like, talking about how do we fix the economy without really addressing the beast that's creating the situation. You know, like, we can talk about how do we increase the taxes, what do we bend here, how do we not mess with the debt. Well, that's not my debt. I never co-signed any of it, and it's not any of our debt. Most of us don't believe in anywhere any of that money is gone. So why would we be concerned of how we pay back the money that they stole from us? Is basically it. Sorry, guys. I ran.
If I may, we're looking at the core foundation of capitalism versus socialism, regulation versus deregulation, and how that's going to impact the average, not just the average American citizen, just the American citizen in general. Right now, one of the biggest problems is we're saying that citizens, that the non-elected citizen may or may not agree with how things are going. But without that transparency, without seeing that, hey, here is the budget, here is taxpayer money, this is how taxpayer money is being used. And a prime example of that was in the HR 1 Big Beautiful Bill that was passed. Taxpayers are going to pay the $480 billion over 10 years to completely subsidize, to completely pay for jets for billionaires that they will never ride on. Yet taxpayers are unable to do anything about that in a meaningful manner. The core solution is literally to address the rules, and it will take time. We live in a generation right now where everyone wants something really fast, but this did not happen really quickly. Social Security was a really good plan, but the interdepartmental fund, when they decided to first start borrowing from Social Security, which led to these problems that we're going to see today and we are seeing, was done in 1982, a couple of months before I was even born. And we're seeing the effects of these things way down the line. So I'm really asking citizens to take a step back and understand that you can step through the problems that are created in a meaningful manner. There will be, and we will all have to some extent, deal with different hardships based on where we are in our lives. We have to take that serious, that understanding that, hey, you may not have been born, you may not get to make the decisions, but you are going to have to decide here and now if you're going to be a part of the solution. And if you are looking for immediate relief, everywhere that's not possible. And that's just something that must be taken on. No individual, and I don't take anything from anyone's platform, is going to provide the level of immediate relief for everybody. It's just not going to happen at the same time. So stepping through these policies, these statutes, these laws, and coming back to citizens, and this is something that we had to look at when we talked about the COVID era, looking at herd immunity. You have to herd educate your constituents by giving them that transparent level of information to bring them along while we move. These are multifaceted, multi-perspectives that need to go at the same time. And you do need, in some of these different areas, you do need Ms. Randy, you do need to ensure that as you move towards your plan, that all of these different entities are chasing the same goal, even though Rainey's goal is for her constituents to get there. It's still got to align with the governor of her state, which still has to hopefully align with Mr. Anthony, which still needs to align with the federal level that Mr. Hunt is talking about. And your citizens have to also somehow understand the wording, the legislative wording, when we bring that to them by way of a bill. I was proposing just giving the citizens a who, what, where, when, why, and how quick reference breakdown. But the bill language in the bill structure will still be the same. We have to still bring that education up while understanding that change needs to happen. Very quick implementation after doing 22 years in the military. When you implement something really fast, there's a lot of times where operational risk management sometimes gets really pushed to the left. It's okay to take a minute to slow down and understand that, hey, I bet the most person that's feeling the most adverse right now is going to always feel it the worst because of where they are in our society. So when you start to bring people up, that doesn't mean that those individuals aren't going to be like, this isn't working for me right now. You still have to explain to them that, hey, just like ourselves, Ms. Rainey said, sometimes she's already looking at, hey, what can we look at 50 years from now? We're not even going to be in office 50 years from now. This is why it's important to set a good ground level for making sure that other elected representatives have something to build off of. If we push too fast, like what we're seeing happening right now, executive order, you cannot keep up. We are seeing, even in Florida, they're putting out 1,000-page bills that need to be voted on in less than 18 hours. No one's, even if the computer can read 1,000 pages, but it cannot break it down to all of your constituents. It's just not possible. So we do need to take a minute to say, hey, government, slow it down and show us what's going on. But we're missing a key point, which is you can't get transparency. You can't get, thank Mr. Anthony definitely for letting us all know how much each office is getting to budget for their offices, and how we can start looking at, hey, you may be not spending this money in a means that's meaningful to get your citizens on board with understanding. A lot of the arguments are coming from a lack of information. And everyone on this board, you're all educated in what you want to do. You're pushing yourselves, you're reading, you're studying, you're doing all the work, and someone's believing in you. They're believing that the data you're putting out is locked in, and you don't even have a rule, which somebody argued about consistently. There's not even a rule for every single candidate to ensure that you tell the truth, that the information you put out is factual. There's nothing to hold you accountable to putting out factual information. So when we see argument, consider that the rules in place are still not there yet. The Constitution is such a high level document, but it doesn't control every state statute. So we have to figure this out in a meaningful way. Take all of these ideas and figure out how they're going to work for citizens, and figure out how to give citizens this voice that's necessary to, at minimum, this is super important. Your constituents need to be able to disagree with you and stop your bill from going. If the majority of your constituents don't agree, how is it possible that you can still put forth a bill in your prospective area? You should not be able to. That's super important because those are all the people who hired you. So I really wanted to just definitely say, slow it down. It's okay to take a step back and take some smaller steps, because we know we need to get there, but the hardships are maybe making us move too fast. And it's okay. And our kids, your kids, my kids, I need to slow it down so that they have an opportunity to catch up. And right now, it's a lot that has gotten lost. And we need citizens to have a lot more power. My conversation will always go back to make sure citizens can say that we've made a mistake and we can fix it. I don't want to just rely on any elected representative. I want to know for sure that the citizens understand that, hey, we can fix the problems that we make, and we don't have to hope that we get the right person in. Because if we don't get the right person in, what happened to your hope? It's diminished. So we need rules to kind of get rid of hope. Even if you're a bad person, at least the rules help us by giving citizens a chance to say that, hey, yeah, we elected you, but you know what? We can use the rules because we see that you're not doing the right thing.
So, Randall, can I say something very quickly? So I think the question is, how will you reduce inflation, costs of living for the working families? So Rodney, give me one sentence how all that would reduce the cost of living, because we need to focus on answering the questions.
Absolutely.
I haven't figured out how what you said will reduce the cost of living.
There is no possible way for citizens to reduce the cost of living if they cannot vote on what's bringing the inflationary problems. It's just not possible. When I used HR 1, that was my example for how we could have reduced the cost of living. It's going to cost a Floridian family roughly $4,000 a year to pay for that bill. That would have reduced their cost of living if they could have said, we don't want this. But when citizens can't make those steps, you can't do that because we haven't solved some core problems. And until we solve the core problem, how can we give these solutions? And you can't stop these other individuals from outvoting the representatives.
Can I hop
Hold on just 1 second. We got a new guest here that needs to be able to speak up first.
Yeah, let me introduce them. That is Amanda Kazek. I think that's how I pronounce her name. She is from Alabama. She's a Democrat, and she is running to become the next U.S. representative for the state's 4th district. Amanda?
Sorry, technical issues. Hey guys, I'm doing good. Happy Sunday, everyone. My name is Amanda Pushak. I'm running for Congressional District 4, which is the reddest district in the entire country. I'm a nurse of over 10 years, and I'm super into things like human rights, healthcare, and affordability. So I'm so glad to be here to be with this discussion with you guys.
Thank you so much. You may continue.
I wanted to touch on what, kind of addressing what Rodney was saying, and this is in regards to reducing costs. I believe so, and this is a thing it's kind of scary and it's sad because we have really, really, really worked hard in this country to make sure people aren't educated and don't have the wherewithal to actually read more than a few sentences or pay attention to a video that's more than 30 seconds long. There's a large group of people that on this last election that voted just on the premise that they would get rid of minorities and get rid of people who had sexual preferences. And that's all you needed to say to get their vote. You could say, we're going to burn your whole town down. But as long as you got that on your agenda, they're with you. They're with you. And those people don't care about the intelligence of the bill, and they're not going to look into that. And what I'm proposing here is that you make their vote becomes their action in their community. What soda pop they're buying, who they pay their rent to, what electric company they go to. It could be as simple as what diaper brand you're buying for your baby. Am I buying the diaper brand that takes the money out of the community and sends it over to a CEO? Or am I buying from the brand that is putting back into the community? It's about giving them an option without making them have to think. We don't have a nation of intelligent thinkers. I'm really sorry, Rodney. It's just not the way it is. So if we want to reduce the prices of things, we have to be able to control the prices of things. Everybody wants to talk about how we need to make more money so we can get more the things. It's not about that. If we can control the prices of the things and have control of the means of the production, we have the ability to control the prices of it. And at that point, it's not chasing after more made-up money. All this money that we're trying to get, it's fake. It's made up anyways. So getting back the control of the means of our own lives is key. And I'm not saying nobody run for politicians. I'm saying at the same time you're running for politicians, form a cooperative in your town. And we're working on forming a network of cooperatives. If there's conglomerates of corporations that serve corporate shareholders, there should be conglomerates of cooperatives that support the people. We wouldn't be having this conversation if the charter system would have been left in place. So it's like really, really looking at what the key issue here. Our political system, the only thing that's wrong with it is that it's run by big money and corporations. It's a great system in theory, but when it is completely in control of big money, I mean, we look at these things. You look at Bernie Sanders being pushed out. There's a reason for that. That's because he doesn't work for big money. There's a reason no one knows who Marianne Williamson is. She doesn't work for big money. Sorry, I'm over the time, but yeah, you guys get what I'm trying to be a rambler. I have a problem with it.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Does anyone else want to respond to the question? Ms. Ang?
Okay, Anthony, you can go after me. Okay, so inflation, affordable housing. So, I think everybody here has some great ideas, but thankfully I'm at the city council level and we can actually do things that will affect affordable housing for people right away. So some of the things that I would do here is, and we're already on the right track, and as you said, there has to be alignment with the governor, is one is affordable dwelling units, or ADUs. Those are, so you can build on to your house that already have to use it as a rental or to have a multifamily home. Those are something that we can do. There has to be multifamily housing available wherever the public transportation goes to within walking distance so that people can travel and do that. So I continue to make sure that we are getting to that point so there's affordable housing there. Additionally, the town that I live in specifically also is a tourist population at some time. It's like a tourist destination at some times. And I've also lived in Newport, Rhode Island, military spouse, where I moved number 6. And there, one of the great things that they had done was really, really limiting short-term rentals so that those properties aren't bought out by corporations that are renting them out. So those are things I would do for affordable housing in my town because that is a huge, huge problem for Newburyport. The average home here is $1.3 million. $1.3 million is the average price for a house in the city of 18,000 people. It is insane. So that is the highest topic because what I see when I talk to my constituents is the people that are actually the most impacted by this are our citizens that are retired or nearing retirement. They are on fixed incomes. They cannot afford to continue living in the towns that they've lived in since they were born. So I believe that the affordable housing, we have to fix that. And then I will take us on a little journey, but I will keep it short because I agree with a little bit of what everybody is saying here because fixing the inflation, affordable housing, right, that is fixing the symptom, right? It's not getting to the root of the problem. That's how do we treat that thing? So I think we all agree here that corporations do money, right? Because we can't have them buying up these houses, they flip them, they sell them for a lot of money. So we can't do that. And right now, unfortunately, our money is more powerful than our vote, which is a big problem as well. Because if you have more money, then you have more power, right? So we can't do that. And I think that the root of that, since we all got to say the root of the problem, to me is a culture problem. So if we go back to Model UN, one-on-one, you change the people by changing the children. So what we have to do in our educational system is to teach better government education about how to be a citizen, how to be in the community, how to live for each other as a public servant. Because right now, our educational system is built to create a workforce, right? Everything about it is aligned to create factory workers, and that was the design, right? So we have to change that culture, starting with the children at education, to make it that we all work for each other. We're all here. And I know this sounds altruistic, but somebody has to be, right? Like, that's where the root of the problem is. So I just like the different opinions everybody has on how to solve this, and really enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mr. Doribus?
The question was what legislation, right? What legislation we would put forth, or was that the question?
Yeah, it was.
So we actually, a constituent asked if we had any legislation drafted once we retained this seat back to the people here. And at that time we didn't. So we said, hey, to ourselves, of course, maybe we should. So we've drafted 6 pieces of legislation, 6 bills. I don't know if any of you heard of Jonathan Bonner, who has agreed to co-sponsor one of our bills. And we have one specifically designed for the renting population. Those of us that are barely making it paycheck to paycheck and can't qualify for an apartment, which is something new since the 80s. You never had to buy an apartment. That just exasperates the homeless situation. And a lot of it is tied into FICO scores. And with Jeffrey, also, both of us have been homeless before. And for me, it was twice based on my FICO score that was a decade old. It shouldn't be a huge issue to work around that. While working at the post office, well, I'll skip over the story, but we have legislation that takes care of that. We know it's illegal currently by law to deny people from an apartment based solely on the FICO score. It's happened to me twice, and everyone here, I'm sure, or maybe you don't know, but it happens regularly. We know that happens. There's no reason while working at the post office, making $60,000 a year, that you should be denied an apartment. One case in point, it happened twice.
Thank you, Mr. Doribus. Does anyone else want to respond to the question? I'll take that as a no. I would like to move on to our last and final segment, which is civil rights. I know in the comment section, people have been talking about that. So my first question for the panelists is that what role does the local government versus the federal government play in protecting civil rights?
Say that again, Randall.
What role does the local government versus the federal government play in protecting civil rights?
Okay, I'll answer that. First, Randall, because I know we've only got like 30 more minutes. Hopefully, we keep everybody's initial speech to around 2 minutes, and then we have a discussion that allows more time. I want to make sure everybody has their time for their voice to be heard. I think when it comes to the federal side, that the federal side should set a minimum standard for civil rights. And then it's up to the state, the city, to strengthen those, to make it, to adapt it to their community. But I would love to, if I was president, I would push for community oversight investment board that would help address these civil rights issues, like a National Right to Vote Week, where people can go out, they have the time to take off from every job with pay to go vote. But also I think we need to start educating our children in the school system about their civil rights, their rights to protest. When something's happened in their school they don't like, they have a right to protest that and be civil about it. Those are things that that the federal government should be setting up a minimum standard. So each state says, this is the minimum, how can we make it better?
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Would anyone like to volunteer to go next?
Yes, I'll go right ahead. As we know, civil rights are blanket. They're for everyone. I don't think personally that the federal government should be the initiator of civil rights rules, because we had colonies of the states prior to that. So when an issue comes up and you can say that, hey, you're infringing on me because of this specific reason that can qualify to bring or quantify more people to also be infringed on that, states should definitely immediately weigh in on those based on the current laws, rules, and regulations that we already have in place. If indeed this state or any state fails at that, then we should be looking for the federal government to kind of bring that larger level of assistance, if necessary, into play. But we all know that these are blanketed civil rights conversations across race, creed, race, color, national origin, sex, male, female, disability status, all of these things. So states definitely have a huge role in ensuring that civil rights are located for all categories.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Rodney. And it's crazy. Like a couple years ago, I did a little change in my life, and I felt like at a certain point the world was moving in a more positive direction. But when it comes to the civil rights, I always think of it in this very weird way. Is kind of like, we want to be this extremely tolerant society. Like, we want to be known for being the most tolerant society. But with that, we at the same time have to learn to tolerate intolerance. And intolerance is fine in theory. It's not fine in action. So, and that's like where we allow exclusion by any type of civility like that. But it's like that town right now that's starting. There's a town, I guess, somewhere that's starting that's all white, and they don't want anybody that's, not Christian, white, and straight, and I don't support that. I don't support it, and I see, like, by the idea of it, I don't support it. But in the freedom of allowing people to do such a thing like that, that's fine. And what I'm presenting is the system that kind of levels this field, because no matter what, we're not going to change everybody's mind in this nation. We're not going to get everybody to think alike. We're not ever going to get everybody to play nice. But what we can do is we can get everybody to work together, regardless if we can't agree. And this is why I propose certain things like a federated network of cooperatives, and it would go something along the lines of this. If you want to be this town to be exclusive like that, that's fine. You can still be part of this network, but you don't benefit from any of the communities that you don't allow into your own community. So you're excluding yourself from people, but you also exclude yourself from the benefit of being involved in a diverse network. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's because we're going to have to allow everybody to exist in their own weirdness. There's people who, I'm kind of like a homesteading hippie type of person. A lot of people don't agree with me, where I all the communists, and so it's about kind of almost and like you're saying, it's not the federal's job. It's our job as individuals to realize that our unity is more important than our politics. Our unity is more important than our race. Our unity is more important than our religion. It's the only thing right now that's stopping us from being a successful country is because they've convinced us that we're all a bunch of different people living here, which we are, but we're at the same time, the very key that gives us our strength is our unity. And I know I'm probably running over the cut, but I think like with this situation of civility, like we're going to run into this like weirdness, like these all white towns. Like, how do we even handle that? Like, as a nation of like I thought we were evolving as people, which, there's clear signs that we're evolving.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Ms. Paget?
So I think that my stance is maybe a little bit different. I think that when we get into the weeds of different state laws and the patchwork of laws, and when there's not a connective tissue on the federal level that has more of a guiding principle, it becomes very difficult. And for a bunch of different reasons, but let's say like THC, right? You can go from one state and totally legal, not a problem at all, recreational, and then cross the line into another state, and it's now it's a federal offense, it's a felony. So I think that having the job of the federal government is to have that general protection, that connective tissue that protects all citizens. I think that when we're talking about like individually in the particular state, I'm very hesitant to give too much power to quote unquote state laws, because that inevitably restricts some of the citizens. So let's say I'm a high risk pregnancy person. I just am. So it's very difficult for me to conceive. I would have to travel 7 hours away to get medical care in an emergency. In the case that I become pregnant, which means that I have a high chance of dying. It also means that other people like me have a high chance of dying because we don't have access to that kind of care. So while I understand that there is a difference between both local protections of civil rights and things like that, I think that if we inevitably don't make bigger allowances for the federal level and making sure that that's a priority, that we will continue to have these patchwork laws that end up hurting people. Just my personal opinion.
Thank you so much. I know Mr. Garibas and Ms. King didn't answer the original questions, so they'd like to do so.
Yeah, on civil rights. Is that?
Yeah.
Yes, civil rights. Civil rights and liberties. Where a lot of this concerns medical procedures. Where those are decisions that are personal. The government has no business in coming into your doctor's office or your doctor's visit. What you do and how you live is your personal choice. I don't know when we handed that decision over to the government, but it needs to end. Everyone deserves the freedom and rights to pursue their quality of life the way they should. Freedom's not negotiable. Something it's the foundation of everything that we do, but that's where we stand, and we've never changed or wavered from that.
Thank you, Mr. Garibas. The same.
So I think, again, I think I'm learning that City Council has a lot of control over these things. So directly, we have a lot of control over civil rights that are practiced in our city. That comes from accessibility for disabled, for what our children see or are exposed to while they're in school, and things like that. So I would definitely make sure that we are listening to people and what they want here. So I'll give this one story that it'll probably just sound so minuscule compared to those of you that are running for president, but it is a huge problem here is the roads and the sidewalks. This is a huge point of contention in Newburyport. And at first I was like, why? But now I understand, right? Because if they have too many potholes or if there's like a tree growing in their sidewalk, it makes it, one, for disabled people, and for our aging population, it's very dangerous for them to even walk down their sidewalk. Like, these things matter. And then the other thing I will say about civil rights is I think civil rights needs like a rebrand, because I do think that a lot of people hear civil rights and God bless Martin Luther King, but right, they go straight to that and they're like, oh, civil rights doesn't affect me. That's not an issue for me, but civil rights affects everyone, right? Even if you're a middle-aged white male, which things are most often made for, civil rights affects them too. So we need to do like a total rebrand of what we call civil rights and understand what those rights are, kind of going back to what Mr. Hunt said about children learning what are civil rights and how they can act on those rights. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Angham. Does anyone else want to respond to the question or respond to another panelist?
Yes, I would like to just be clear. There is a certain reason when you have the federal government reach into a state. So it just, and states are through right because states do have their own sovereignty pushing back. So, those 6 reasons are, when we're acting under enumerated power, conflicting with federal law, when states ask for federal funding, during a national emergency, voting, violation of constitutional rights, federal constitution, and the incorporation of the Bill of Rights. So it is always incumbent to be very careful, and this has always been a conversation since I've been old enough to comprehend. How much should the federal government overreach into a state? So it's really important to understand that because again, you're going to have citizens of your state that are going to elect you based on your views, visions, and opinions and goals that you put out. If that conflicts with the federal level, you will inevitably create conflict. So where do you see your elected seat and the federal government saying that it's okay for you to decide what we do at this level?
I'll respond. I think that there's two different things going on here. Back to Ms. Ng, I think that we have this conversation, I think that's really true, about civil rights, and really what I think that we need to refer to a lot of things as, because it's really more comprehensive, to call them human rights. And when I say things like human rights, I mean things like access to medical care, things to access to housing, things to access to a livable wage, different things like that. I think that differentiating that and making it very clear that that is a human right, you exist, that is the purpose of the government, is to help facilitate those things to you. That's what I think of. In terms of government overreach, again, I just have this deep concern of when we push things to the state and we make them state, that it becomes patchwork laws. Patchwork laws hurt people. They just hurt people. Whether that is the marijuana or abortion or whatever the case is.
Hey,
and I think that we can...
Hey, be careful with your words.
Oh, sorry. I'm not very used to TikTok. I'm not sure what sort of language stuff is. I apologize.
So the unaliving of newborns
Oh,
be
okay.
called AB.
AB.
Yes. Or,
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
so when it comes to the substance, you have to use like drugs versus the names. TikTok is just funny. I'm so sorry about that.
No. I learn something new every day. I highly appreciate it. So
I'm gonna actually post a picture of words that are banned by TikTok.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Let me go ahead and close out then. I see that I'm past time. Sorry, Randall.
No, you're good. I want you to keep talking.
What I was saying is with the patchwork of laws, for like cases in certain states, I would also argue that some states honestly can't be trusted. That we may have to a certain degree where the population already, says that certain things should be very popular. Let me say that. They should be very popular, but the state goes ahead and makes them felonies and things like that. It's just, when we have these patchwork laws, there's always someone who inevitably gets hurt. And as a nurse, that's kind of the name of the game for me, right? Is that if we can prevent people being hurt, that always does more good than it does for us to backtrack. And so that's kind of the frame of mindset that I think about when I approach most policies and when I approach most things in government, is what is going to produce the most good and also negate the most bad.
I'll go. I just wanted to say thank you for the time today, and I know we're at last question. I have to go feed my kid lunch, and the dogs, everyone is waiting. Working mom life here. So thanks again. I enjoyed the conversation. I love hearing all the different perspectives, and regardless of what you guys believe, I'm just proud of all of us for taking the time and effort to do this. So have a great rest of your day. Bye.
So, Randy, before you leave, I want to say something to you, okay? Because you're the type of person I want to support, because you want to listen to us. But really, to me, what's really most important, that we take what everybody says. How can we take the best of what people are saying and create the best for the people? That's what I want.
Yeah, there's so much power in like a really team-based approach, and if anybody says they have all the answers, you can immediately like discount them because nobody does. So have a great rest of your day and have a great weekend. Thank you, Mr. Hunt, and thank you, Randall.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lang. Does anybody else want to respond to the question before we go into closing statements?
I want to respond to. I'm not even going to try for an opportunity. Okay? Because I'm going to chop it up.
Amanda.
Amanda?
You can say Amanda. My husband's last name is Barnes, but it's really expensive to change all my nursing licenses, so I'm getting there slowly but surely.
Oh, okay. All right. Because it'll say Amanda, so I'll try to read the name it says. So I agree with some of your points, because that we need government control over states so that we don't have a wide range of things. But yet, one of the problems I see is the federal government does not do a great job of what they're supposed to do, particularly healthcare. I would really love to see the government get out of healthcare and turn it over the hands to the people. Get away from insurance companies, get out of the government, and put it in the hands of the people. Well, that's for a whole another discussion. So I will make sure I invite you to come join my live, and you ask me about my healthcare plan, because I think you would really like it. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mr. Hunt. Does anybody else have any questions or any responses at all?
No.
Mr. Brother?
I just want to say that it is not the federal government's job to govern over states. It's not written anywhere that it's ever been the federal government's job to govern over states. So is it your direction that you would like to see the federal government start to implement legislation to start governing over states? Because I just want to be clear that I'm understanding.
So I'm assuming you're talking to
Folks, yeah, you guys, between my man and you both had the same kind of like understanding of that area. So I just wanted to know, is it your goal, or would you like to see the federal government have more governing authority over states?
Well, I personally don't think they need more governing authority over the state. I think that they have the right to say, you know what, these are the bare minimum for rights of our citizens. That's their job, to protect the citizens. And then it's the job of the state to say, okay, here's the bare minimum. What can we do to make it better? And then each state can adopt those bare minimums to make it better for their state based upon their needs.
Understand.
I agree. I think that usually when I think of the federal government, I think of its role and the part of the states. When states are ruled as sort of fiefdoms and they're very disconnected, then they're not doing the most good possible for their citizens. I think that the role of the federal government is to say, hey guys, this is the sort of thing that we need to be doing to make sure that we're taking care of our citizens. And then the job of the state is to go, yes, and then go implement policies and implement that action to best serve their constituents.
Yeah, I believe the federal government is their job is to make sure the states are healthy and survive, just like the kind of similar to the citizens. If the state needs help in healthcare, the federal government should step in. If the state needs help in education for its population, the federal government steps in. Defense, the federal government steps in at a bare minimum. I don't want the federal government saying, because every state they're like 50 different micro countries, different cultures. People in California don't live like the people in Wisconsin. The people in Idaho don't live like the people in Florida. We have an experimental government that's worked so far, mostly, of 50 different nations that combine together. The federal government should be encouraging that in a healthy way, and financially as well.
And if I could add to, because I really like where we've gone, and I feel like we've looked at it in a lot of neat ways. It's kind of like you were saying before, Amanda. You know, it's such a, there's so many little minor issues, because like the garden or the herb issue, the tea issue she was speaking of that we're not allowed to talk about, the plant, that is kind of a strange thing, you know, like where it is state to state, you know, it's got its own legislation, and then you kind of look at where they're the most hard on it, and you see those are some of the more private prison invested states that want to maintain that business more than they want to bring in the new business. And it's like when you can you know, give somebody a year in jail for a bag of tea, you know, it's like you don't really want to allow everyone to have tea, because then you lose the money on the guy that's going to jail for the tea. So there's some systemic things that I think are mainly influenced by how radicalized capitalism has gotten in America, that kind of influence almost every single thing that we can talk about here. And it's really broad scale and really hard for anyone to just generally say what, you know, you'd have to really write it down on paper what you believe the federal government really can have its fingers in. And what I really believe too, and this is us, and maybe can just go into my closing statement, is I believe we're at a really crazy time in history where our government has almost been completely hijacked. I mean, the numbers have been done. We have literally 0% of a voice against big money at this point. And I believe if we want to save ourselves, we need to be addressing our economic practices and our economic system and our overconsumption and things that are made in the model of planned obsolescence. Because all of this together is just this country has just been turned into a machine to create print money that the world uses to directly hand it over to major corporations and shareholders on the backs of the American people. And basically what I'm really getting around to is our only way out is to start rebuilding every little bit of what we do, who we're renting from, where we're buying our food. We need to start building the foundations for things like that: cooperative housing projects, cooperative medical, cooperative utility. All of these things will self-feed in themselves. And this is the other main thing I always specify. We're about 10 to 15 years away from there being almost zero jobs for people. There's going to be almost no jobs. So anyone out there that's going, well, socialism, if we don't start designing and understanding that we're not going to have abilities to work for ourselves, and we're going to have housing and utilities and healthcare and food, but no actual ways to work for them, it's going to turn into something really ugly. So if we're not working together, coming together to build the future that we want for our children, we're going to get something so much uglier than socialism. So you can either keep fighting it or understand that we deserve better and start working together. And thank you guys all so much for doing this every week and inviting me. I really appreciate it. I think, like I said before, our togetherness is more important than anything else. Like, we're not going to get everybody to get on the same page, but we can all get on the same boat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cooper. Ms. Pajek, do you want to do your closing statement?
Yeah, I will go ahead and do mine. I think that what we're experiencing right now is very reminiscent to me, at least, of another period in time where we had like the oil barons. And during that time in the US, we had this huge wealth disparity, a wealth disparity that honestly, truly, considering how things are now, we really can't even begin to grasp the amount of money that some people have. I think that unless we look at a redistribution of wealth, and with that, a redistribution of power as well, and taking away a lot of the power and the money, both in politics and government, and the ability to purchase your way out of regulations, purchase your way into government contracts, all of these different things. I think that we need to really refocus on the government, which the government's purpose is to not be a business, and it's not to enrich yourself as a politician or anything like that. It's to take care of your people. I think that we've lost a lot of that empathy that's supposed to be held in a position of power because money has become such a motivator. I think that by ending Citizens United and overturning that and beginning to untangle everything, I think that that us the best prospects. And I also have to say that I'm very encouraged to see people like everyone here who are running. I think that every single seat should be challenged, and everyone should have an opportunity when they get into the polling booth. No one should have an unopposed seat. That's just how I feel. That is truly the best way to move forward with democracy, and to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. So I suppose in my wrap up of my closing statements would be thank you. Just
Hello,
thank
Bug.
you to everyone here who's running.
There's something in here. I left the mic off.
Part of the difference.
Nice cold.
I turned it back on for you.
Thank you. It was a little warm in here.
I knew it was getting warm. I liked you.
Thank you.
Shared you. I gave lots of hearts.
Thank you. Yes, closing statements. Well, everyone in the chat knows I'm Anthony Deribas, running in Florida's 16th Congressional District. We are running against a multimillionaire who's been there for 20 years. I am pro quality of life. We want to make sure that people, all people, everyone, has access to affordable health care, affordable housing, and an affordable living wage. And if they want to slap on a thing of socialism, a label of socialism, then that's what we'll wear. We don't really call it. We're not all about labels. We're just about people and getting the costs back. We've lived a lot of these struggles that 60 to 80% of the American people are living paycheck to paycheck, been homeless twice. I come from a retail background. So that's where we are. Any questions? Feel free to. Oh, go ahead. I'll end.
So sorry, but thank you so much, Mr. Deribas. Mr. Glover?
Yes, again, I'm a candidate for governor of Florida. My sole purpose, sole goal is to give citizens legislative authority that is to ensure that your elected officials are accountable to you by way of legislation. That's the goal. You can change the person, but the person doesn't always have the ability to change the rules. If citizens would like to see the rules change, elect officials that are going to give you, the citizen, control over them. That will help us change the rules that we are all governed by. Thank you, and you guys have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. You too. And lastly, Mr. Hunt.
So, Lou, want to invite someone up. Lou, I just want to explain to you that after last week, we discussed it, and we will only invite the panel. And then if there's someone running for office and they're at the very beginning, we have empty slots, we would consider that. But as a whole, we will not let other people up because it create a problem for us. And that being said, I want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you for being here today. Your time, your ideas, and your willingness to listen to one another are what make gatherings like this so powerful. Too often, politics is about division, and taking over people, talking over people instead of talking with them. Now, here in this town hall, we prove that everyday Americans can come together with respect, common sense, and the belief that we can solve our nation's toughest challenges. Today, we discuss issues like income inequality, climate change, and civil rights. These aren't abstract debates. They're about the future of our children. They are about the future of our children who will inherit the quality of life for every American. No matter where they live or what they believe, we may not all agree on every detail, but what matters is that we share the same goal: building a stronger, fairer, and freer country. So thank you for your time, your honesty, and your courage to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Let's keep working together, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans, united by the idea that tomorrow will be better than today. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next town hall meeting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hunt. And with closing statements complete, this ends our town hall meeting. I find that this meeting was very productive, and thank you to all the panelists and audience members for making this happen. And I hope if there was a panelist that stuck out to you, you will research them, and look into them more, and potentially help support what they are fighting for. This town hall is about unity and fighting for the citizens of America. And again, thank you very much.
So Amanda left. Anthony, make sure you invite Amanda to my TikTok live. I'm gonna send her a message, but I will make sure she comes and talk to me about my healthcare plan.
Sounds good.
All right, you guys, thank you very much.
All right.
And Randall and Anthony, later this week sometime, I want to discuss how can we make it better.
Yeah, of course.
Sounds good.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.
Thanks a lot, you
Thanks,
guys.
Randall, again.
See y'all next week. Bye.
All right, everyone. That concludes our 19th TikTok Town Hall. We hold these every week. We started holding them back in February 28th when we launched our announcement. I won't really call it a run. Our announcement on our intention to run. We have until April of next year to file, so we're using that to our advantage right now. We're holding these town hall lives, hosting them ourselves from on district work periods, which is when our representative comes home, is supposed to hold town halls or talk to his constituents, which wasn't happening. At a bare minimum, his offices were open like from 8 to 1, 2 days a week or something like that. Even right now, he's off. We've expanded as our message has grown. We've expanded to holding them every week now. Our 20th one is next week. It should be something special. We're not sure what we're going to do yet, but it could be something special. So thank everyone for being here. Appreciate all of you. I saw my mother come up, which was a surprise. Stacy, Sue, my friend, tell Tom hello. Hope he's doing well. And your daughter, your family. I hope everything's going well. And are you living in Tennessee now? Hope everything's going well up there. And my coworker, Abraham, Muhammad, glad to see you up too as well. So that wraps everything up. Reach out to me. This Facebook account is an old account that I still have access to. So I think. But anyways, I'll check it. Or you can email me if you want to get in touch with me. The best way, because some of these accounts are old. These are old devices that I'm going live on just to expand our outreach. but you can go ahead and email me at last name DERIBAS, Deribas for Congress@gmail.com. Glad all of you can make it. Thanks. Have a great day.